Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy.
Are you familiar with how the Major League Baseball arbitration process works?
Somewhat, yes.
So the way that it does work, for those that don't understand it, is if the player and the team can't come to an agreement on a salary, then you have to go to the arbiter. And the player argues for themselves and sets a number, and the team argues for itself and sets a number. And the arbiter goes in and says, that's the number. There's no settlement between the two. It's just, boom, that's the number. And Beck, you are going to be the arbiter today, and I'm going to argue against myself, quite frankly, but I feel like I'm capable of making both cases. The cases will be,
I'm ready.
LSU is an 11-1 SEC regular season champion.
Okay.
LSU is 7-5 and in search for some significant answers within the program.
All right.
Those are our two benchmarks here. I will make both cases, and you have to just come in and clear, this is far more believable. I'm going with this. And that'll probably suggest to us what side of the coin LSU is closer to. I realize that you're not an impartial arbiter here. You have information. You have feelings about the team. However, I'm going to lay it out. Now, last week,
I'm going to set aside my biases, if that's a word, Hunt. And
biases?
Biases, yes.
And last week, I told you that we were going to leave the pessimistic, negative stuff back last week.
You did say that.
So in order to kind of stay with that thought, let me start with the negative and lead to the closing arguments will be made by the positive side of things.
All right.
But we are going to start with the negative. You ready to rock?
Yep.
All right, look, defense is about dudes. You got to have dudes. Does LSU have any dudes? I don't know about that. I think Harold Kirkins is pretty good. He was pretty good last year, and they were the worst defense I've ever looked at, okay? Up front, you've got a bunch of guys who have been backups their whole careers. Jacobian Guillory has been a backup his whole career. Jalen Lee's been a backup his whole career. You could go to JVR Suggs. He was playing Division II last year. They played some school named Pueblo I never heard of. If you think he's ready to step into the SEC, like, I'm not super stoked about that. Dominic McKinley's a freshman. You want him to play a ton out there? Like, what do they have on the edges? Savion Jones didn't break out last year. Braden Swinson didn't make a huge impact. I'm looking at cornerbacks. I'm looking at a group that doesn't have Patrick Peterson or Morris Claiborne or Tre'Davious White or Derek Stingley or Christian Fulton or Corey Webster. I don't see any of those guys. I look at the secondary and at safety. I don't see Eric Reed. I don't see Jamal Adams. I don't see LaRon Landry. I don't see where are the first-round picks outside of potentially Harold Perkins. You got the Weeks brothers and Greg Penn. They're nice sound bites. They're good leaders. Are they great players? I'm not sure I could suggest that they are. I go to LSU on the offensive side of the ball. What have you lost here? Well, you've lost your offensive coordinator, your quarterback, your top two wide receivers, and your leading rusher from the #1 offense in the country. Do you just pick up and that's what you are? I'm not sure about that. Well, let's look at the schedule, and it starts on the defense. Like, is this defense with those guys that don't necessarily look like the LSU defenses of the past, are they ready to start with Lincoln Riley? You don't get Nichols first. You get Lincoln Riley. That one counts. Then you got Lane Kiffin coming in next month. He's got Jackson Dart. He's got Trey Harris. He's got Juice Wells. Is LSU ready to keep up with them defensively? Kalen DeBoer, been one of the best offensive minds in the country the last 2 years. He's got a returning quarterback who got the most Heisman votes anybody that's back in college football got last year in Jalen Milroe. Jackson Arnold's a 5-star quarterback coming in here for Oklahoma. Like, that's a lot of issues that can't just be glossed over because they're wearing pretty gold helmets with gorgeous white uniforms. Like, they got a lot to make up for on offense. They've got real issues on defense that you're just kind of assuming are taken care of because you got a new coach and some new position coaches in there. Like, there are real problems, and this schedule starts fast and finishes fast. You start early on, like I mentioned, with USC and Ole Miss. You finish with Alabama, and you finish with Oklahoma. And in the middle of that, you got to go to the Swamp. You got to go to College Station. If this defense is not very much improved and the offense is just average, well, are you going to beat Ole Miss? Are you going to beat Alabama? Are you going to beat Oklahoma? Are you going to go to College Station and win? Are you going to beat USC? I'm not even mentioning a road trip to South Carolina. That hadn't come up. I'm not talking about a road trip to Fayetteville. Like, I've got real concerns about the dudes on defense and what they're bringing in on offense to replace one of the greatest units in the history of the school. I don't know. Should we break that up and go a little bit more positively now? Because this is what people are going to want to hear. All right, look. Brian Kelly, year 3. Brian Kelly, year 3. Central Michigan, he took over a 4-win team. They went 9-3. At Cincinnati in year 3, he went 11-3. At Notre Dame in year 3, he went 12-0 and played for a natty. This is year 3 for Brian Kelly. He's got all those internal protocols in place. Everybody's bought in. And look, on defense, that old staff, not great. You had one coach who had never really been at the college level. You had an NFL position coach coming in to try to call plays. They were lining up 4 yards off the ball on the defensive line. Get a new coaching staff in there and just get the guys in the right place. The edge looked pretty good in camp. Savion Jones was beating Will Campbell and Emory Jones every once in a while. Braden Swinson showed some pop. Deshaun Womack was a freshman last year. He's a sophomore now. There's some pump on the edge. Did you hear Brian Kelly talk about Jacoby and Guillory yesterday? Have you heard the guys on the radio, the folks in print, talk about Jacoby Guillory's camp? He's been awesome. Linebacker Harold Perkins is an All-American. He's going to go in the first round. Greg Penn, that's a guy that can be coached up. Blake Baker coached up Damone Clark. He can coach up Greg Penn. The Weeks brothers had their moments last year. And look, when they go 11-11 in camp, they're getting some wins against a pretty good offense. This defense is not going to be spectacular. This defense is going to be coached properly and has good enough athletes to function as a unit. You're telling me Blake Baker's defense last year at Missouri had a bunch of first-rounders? Oh, wait, fact checked. They didn't have any. And they were pretty good on defense. Coach these guys, Blake Baker. Offense, Garrett Nussmeier is pretty new, but last I checked, he's been in school for 3.5 years. Last I checked, he played against Georgia in the SEC championship game. Last I checked, he's seen Alabama's defense. And last I checked, he got one chance to be prepared to start a game for a month and go out there, and he threw for 340 yards, led his team on a 98-yard touchdown drive to win the game, and now it's his offense. Kyron Lacey's looked exceptional. He proved to be productive at the SEC level last year. C.J. Daniels mocked in the second, third round. Chris Hilton looks good. Got to get healthy. Mason Taylor's an all-conference player, and I haven't even gotten to the offensive line. Have you checked the mock drafts, Beck? Have you checked them?
I have.
Multiple offensive linemen in the first round. Haven't had a first-round offensive lineman since 1998. Now, we got 2 coming back this year at the bookend tackle spots.
I'll put that in my notes.
The 2 guards have about, let me check these notes, 900 starts between the 2 guards. They got plenty of experience. They're going to be dominant up front. They're going to ground and pound the football with talented running backs. John Emery, Josh Williams, here comes Caleb Jackson. Those guys are going to run the football. They're going to control the clock. They're going to keep the defense on the sideline. They're going to win games, and Garrett Nussmeier is going to manage them. By the way, the schedule, pretty advantageous if I'm LSU. I'm looking at an SEC road slate that includes South Carolina. Shane Beamer probably should be fired. Not doing a great job. Arkansas, Sam Pittman definitely should be fired. Will be fired. They got to go to Fayetteville. Billy Napier, going to get fired. LSU goes there. And then you play at Texas A&M. They just fired a coach. They can't fire another one. They just spent $76 million dealing with the last one. That's a good schedule. And did I mention the home schedule? Yeah. Ole Miss is good. Alabama's good. Oklahoma, they're good. Guess what they have to deal with? Tiger Stadium at night. Okay?
That's
Oklahoma
pretty hard.
Never dealt with it. Bama was here 2 years ago, lost. Lane Kiffin came in here riding high 2 years ago. Guess what? Lost. Sitting him in a tailspin. This team has got a good offense, an improving defense. All the good teams deal with 100,000 people screaming at them, and they're going 11-1.
What a case you've made for both sides there, Hunt. Incredible stuff.
And that's pretty good timing on the music, too.
It was, actually.
All right, how'd I do? You're now the arbiter.
Okay.
How do we feel about those 2 cases that have been let out?
Well, I would have liked some. I think in the example you gave of the MLB arbitration, I think that usually the arbiters get more than like 2 minutes to decide which
Generally
side
speaking,
they're
they
choose
would.
on.
However, we have a commercial break to get to and a few more segments to get to,
Yes,
so we're
we
going to
do.
put a little heat on you.
Yes, so I'm going to collect my thoughts right now and
give me some thought. Like, what did I bring up that resonated with you?
Yeah. Well, I think the main thing which everyone has talked about already with your first case making for 7-5. While I do not think it's realistic, I think the floor I think for LSU is 8-4. However, if you're making the case for 7-5, the defense, and with everything you said for the 11-1 case, which bring in a new staff, have some younger guys getting older, have some transfers, all that stuff, I still can see a case for this defense being maybe not quite as bad as last year, but close to that.
The case for LSU's defense being bad this year is pretty easy to make.
It is, and so with that being said, and with the knowledge that this is not Jaden Daniels leading this offense, it is Garrett Nussmeier. I do think he is going to be good, but is he going to win the Heisman Trophy? I would probably not bet on it. I would expect that he probably has maybe a similar year that Jaden had in his first year starting. So if that is how the offense plays and that is how the defense plays, I could understand 7-5. However, I will have to say that I would go with the 11-1. That is my decision as the arbiter.
Okay.
I will choose the 11-1 season simply because the schedule is manageable. It's very manageable. I think you have your toughest games for the most part at home. And I expect, like I said, Garrett Nussmeier to have a good year. And I do think that the defense will be improved. I don't think they will be nearly as bad as they were last year. So in my opinion, as the arbiter, I will say that LSU will go 11-1 as opposed to 7-5.
Here's my my take on the whole situation. I won't lay the whole thing out because we still have more show to do. But like the big points here, if LSU can jump this landmine on Sunday,
yep,
anyway, anyhow, block 2 field goals, Miller Moss gets hurt. Like I'm not pulling for that. Like if there's one way that you jump that landmine on Sunday, things kind of set up. And the one thing that we don't ever evaluate when we're watching practice and scrimmages, ever, when we're out there, 1-on-1 drills, 7-on-7 drills, 11-on-11 drills, the one thing we never, ever evaluate is that those 3 teams on LSU's schedule have to play in Tiger Stadium.
Yep.
That does not come up in evaluating the roster, and it is a huge deal. So I would be shocked, personally, if they went 11-1. I'd be pretty shocked if they went 7-5. I think the cop-out answer here for this segment is that I think they go somewhere in between that. The question is it 10-2 or is it 9-3? Because that's probably where 8-4 wouldn't be very good. That's where the playoff delineation comes in.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's something that we have not talked about, and it'll be the first thing we talk about on Ole Miss game week. But we're not talking about it today because we're talking about who's going to be the second corner and what happens if DJ Chester's not out there at center and what the running back reps are going to look like. When you look at this thing in totality, though, you do have to weigh in that stadium, and it matters. And so I probably, in your case, would rule 11-1 too, because that's what time of year it is. It's optimism season. But that's the biggest point I want to make in all this is like that home stadium could be a big, big deal. And if you can lean on your strength, your offense to go beat South Carolina, to go beat Arkansas, to handle your business, in some of those games. I don't have to worry about Vanderbilt or whatever, UCLA. But if you can lean on your offense to go score enough points to win those games, kind of like LSU did, in Starkville last year, then when you come home, the crowd can help your defense, and that's what you've got to hope for. So I don't know. It seemed like we're 23 hours and 45 minutes from really cranking up USC prep tomorrow. I will get into their roster starting tomorrow. I don't like to start that too early. This is something that kind of dawned on me is let's just lay it all out there at once. Usually as we present a topic with linebackers or tail running backs or receivers, you kind of weigh the positive and the negative. I just wanted to cram it all into one. Like just throw everything at the wall on one side and then throw everything on the wall at the other side and see kind of which one sounded to be more powerful. Let's hope it's the 11-1 side of things. That's my sincere hope.
Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.